Welcome back to The Historian, where we dive deep into the stories that shaped our world. Today, we're heading to the sun-soaked island of Mallorca to explore the career of tennis's ultimate warrior, Rafael Nadal Pereira. This is the story of a left-handed legend who didn't just play tennis, he went to war with every single point. Montage of Nadar's most intense rallies and celebrations. If Roger Federer was tennis poetry and Djokovic was tennis mathematics, then Rafael Nadal, he was tennis gladiator combat. This man turned every match into an epic battle, every point into a life-or-death struggle, and somehow made us all believe that giving up was simply not an option. Grab some water, because just watching Nadal highlights is exhausting. Chapter 1. The Mallorcan Miracle. Our story begins in 1986 in Manacor, Mallorca, a beautiful Spanish island that's more famous for beaches and paella than producing tennis legends. But the Nadal family was about to change that narrative in the most spectacular way possible. Little Rafa was born into a family where sports weren't just hobbies, they were religion. His uncle Miguel Angel was a professional footballer who played for Barcelona and Spain. His other Uncle Toni was a tennis coach. So basically, young Rafael was destined to either kick balls or hit them. Thankfully for tennis fans, he chose the racket. Here's the crazy part. Rafa was naturally right-handed, but Uncle Toni, in a stroke of genius or madness, made him play left-handed because he thought it would give him an advantage. Imagine telling a 4-year-old to use their wrong hand for everything. Most kids would quit, but Rafa just said, "Si, tío," and became the greatest left-handed player ever. The family wasn't wealthy, but they were incredibly supportive. While other kids were playing video games, young Rafa was on tennis courts, sweating buckets in the Mediterranean sun. His work ethic was legendary, even as a child. The boy treated practice sessions like military training. Chapter 2. The Uncle Toni Philosophy. Let's talk about Uncle Toni, because this man deserves his own Netflix series. Toni Nadal wasn't just a coach. He was a philosopher, a psychologist, and occasionally a drill sergeant. His training methods were so intense, they'd probably be considered torture in some countries. Toni's philosophy was simple. If you want to be extraordinary, you must suffer extraordinarily. He made Rafa pick up balls after practice, clean the courts, and never, ever act entitled. While other tennis prodigies were getting 5-star treatment, Rafa was learning humility the hard way. And the mental training? Forget about it. Toni would deliberately make Rafa play with inferior equipment just to build character. Your strings are loose? Figure it out. Your shoes are uncomfortable. Play through it. The man was basically creating a tennis Spartan. But here's the beautiful part. It worked. Toni didn't just create a champion. He created a human being who never forgot where he came from. Even when Rafa became the king of clay, he still picked up his own towels. Chapter 3. The Clay Court Phenomenon. By his teens, Rafa was already showing signs of something special, particularly on clay courts. And when I say special, I mean laws of physics don't apply to this kid. Special. He was sliding, spinning, and hitting shots that made grown men question reality. His first ATP match was in 2002 at age 15. And he won. The tennis world was like, who is this muscular teenager, and why is he making professional players look like beginners? Rafa wasn't just playing tennis. He was redefining what was possible on a tennis court. But it was Roland Garros where the legend truly began. In 2005, at just 19, Rafa won his first French Open. He didn't just win. He obliterated the field. He lost only one set in the entire tournament. One set. That's not just dominance. That's a public tennis clinic. The celebration was iconic. Rafa collapsed on the clay like he'd just survived a wear. which, knowing his playing style, he basically had. From that moment, Roland Garros became his personal kingdom, and every other player was just visiting. Chapter 4. The Federer Rivalry. And then came the rivalry that defined a generation: Nadal versus Federer. This wasn't just tennis. This was art or versus war, finesse versus power, Swiss precision versus Spanish passion. Their contrasting styles made every match appointment television. Their first meeting was in Miami, 2004, and 17-year-old Rafa beat the world number one. Won Federer in straight sets. Roger probably went home wondering if he'd just played a tennis player or a time traveler from the future. The tennis world had found its new obsession, but it was their clay court battles that became legendary. Rafa was basically unbeatable on clay. He turned Roland Garros into his personal office. Poor Roger was like the best businessman in the world who couldn't get a meeting in Rafa's boardroom. The 2008 Wimbledon final, though, that was their masterpiece. 5 sets, nearly 5 hours, rain delays, and drama that Hollywood couldn't script. Rafa finally conquered Federer on grass, winning in near darkness. When he climbed into the stands to celebrate with his family, grown men were crying. It was like watching David beat Goliath. Except David had forearms the size of tree trunks. Chapter 5. The Physical Specimen. Let's address the elephant in the room: Rafa's physique. This man looked like he was carved from Spanish marble. His biceps had biceps, and his forehand was powered by what can only be described as controlled explosions. The man's routine was legendary. He'd arrive at tournaments looking like he could bench press the entire venue. While other players were focused on technique, Rafa was out here treating tennis like CrossFit with a racket. His pre-match warm-up was more intense than most people's actual workouts. And the rituals, oh, the rituals. Rafa had more pre-point routines than a religious ceremony. Adjusting his shorts, touching his nose, arranging his water bottles with scientific precision. The man turned OCD into an art form. His water bottles were more organized than most people's entire lives. But here's the thing. Every ritual served a purpose. In the chaos of elite tennis, Rafa created order through repetition. It wasn't superstition. It was psychological warfare against himself and his opponents.